a joy that you have found us for this podcast. How exciting it is to think that this spiritual message is going out to people around this planet. Whether your life is working at a peak level or whether it can use some enhancement, have I got the message for you today. So get a piece of paper, get ready to take notes, call a friend, have them watch this podcast also. Then you too can have something to talk about and take it to a deeper level. So enjoy. Here we go.
Wonderful, man. So, namaste. The divine within me recognizes and honors the divine within you, for we are truly one. And so we come together here in this time and space right now, and I just want to invite you to sit back, to let go, to open, to allow Spirit to have its way with you. For this room is filled with the high consciousness of each and every individual knowing they're good. And that's what we are here to remember today, for there's nothing new. It's just remembering the truth. So we're talking today about our attention and where our attention is and demands on our attention. And I just am coming back from a 3-week vacation, which I've never had a 3-week vacation before, so this was really nice. The first week actually was a spiritual conference in Asilomar, which is a beautiful place right up by the end of the 17-mile drive in Monterey. And it's right on the ocean, but it's real rustic. There's cabins and everything around, deer and raccoons and everything, no phones, no TVs. And all of the religious science groups come together from actually all over the world. And we come together and we break bread together, we eat, and we meet in a community hall twice a day, and then we break out into classes. And it's really a great opportunity because it immerses you in spirit, and it's a great opportunity for ministers too, because we all get together and share, where we've come and what the work we're doing. And one of the things that hit me this time, there was actually a couple of pretty profound statements or shifts that are happening, and I just want to share them with you today. And one of them was, there's a teacher by the name of Emma Curtis Hopkins. Emma Curtis Hopkins is known as the teacher of all teachers. She actually lived in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and she was the one influential individual in the founder of religious science, Ernest Holmes, in the Fillmores of Unity, in many of our leaders that have created this metaphysical philosophy, this new thought philosophy. And I've picked up her book before, but primarily I focused on Joel Goldsmith for the first 10, 12 years of my life, and I hadn't really picked up Emma. But what I started noticing is that all of the leaders of our movement are all quoting Emma and all talking about Emma. And I actually had tried to pick it up before and wasn't really getting it. But this time I took a class on Emma, and I just want to share with you the very first lesson. Because Emma's was so gifted because she had the ability to take this big giant concept that we call God, source, life, metaphysical, that beyond the physical, that whole thing, take that big giant concept and bring it into the very simple and the everyday use. And so this is her very first statement. She says, I am seeking my good, and my good is God. So we know in all metaphysical movements, it's open at the top, and what we do know is that we don't use the word seeking anymore, because seeking, it always has it out here and never really arriving or achieving it. So I want to shift that to say I am realizing my good, and my good is God. So if we were to take this big elusive concept that's called God, and we were to reduce it to one simple word, good, and we were to call it my good, if we know that my good, every aspect of my good, my abundance, my health, my wholeness, my peace, my love, my joy, if we were to recognize and to really deeply know that my good is the activity of my God in my life, then all of a sudden this elusive God that's out there all of a sudden becomes very personal and becomes very real and shows up everywhere present. It's all around us. She goes on to say that my good defines my God. So to the degree that we can realize it, the degree that we're conscious and aware of it, we see God. We experience God. We don't just know about God, but we know God at a deep level because we're living the activity, the goodness, the givingness of the divine, of the Most High, of love, of life, of Source itself, because it is showing up as my life, as my good. So my good is my God, and my God is my good. So good equals God, and God equals good. So I have a saying that I've used that works for me that says feeling good is feeling God. Knowing that life and good and all of that is happening all the time. It is flowing, it is everywhere present, it is nothing that we ever have to seek or get or whatever. It literally is something that we realize, that it's there present. And if we're not realizing it, all we have to do is make a shift in our own consciousness, a transformation in ourselves for that good to show up for us. Because it's there, it's present. And so in realizing that, thinking that this entire spiritual movement, this entire metaphysical movement, this new thought movement is all about that. It's about the realization. It's about where's our attention, where's our focus, where are we putting our awareness on? This is a journey of awareness. What are you choosing? What are you aware of? Because as you make new choices, you get new results. And so that's what this movement truly is about. And when you think about religious science, religious science, or it's called Science of Mind and Spirit, or it's called Centers for Spiritual Living with Ernest Holmes, or even with Unity with the Fillmores. What this really is about is the combination of all the ancient wisdom, all the philosophy, all the science, all the great teachers. And it's not about who taught it or what they did or the history of it, but it's about the practical application. It's about the living of these principles. It's about the pure embodiment of the truth. So not so that we know it in our heads, but so that our life reflects it. It becomes it. So Emma starts out in her first chapter talking a little bit about what this movement, what this philosophy, this way of thinking can do for us. She says, we call metaphysics the science of life, because to know pure metaphysics or new thought is to renew the life and make death or accident impossible. We call metaphysics the science of health because to know metaphysics or new thought is to be perfectly well and free from liability and dis-ease of any kind. We call metaphysics the science of strength because to know metaphysics is to be strong beyond any strength you have ever dreamed of. Nothing is too hard for those who are strong with the strength of metaphysics or God. We call metaphysics the science of support because whoever studies this science finds his support coming to him in a new way. The prophecies of the Isaiah comes to pass to whoever immerses in this teaching. Bread shall not be given to him, his waters shall be sure. We call metaphysics the science of protection, for no ill can come nigh of the dwelling of those who puts his trust in the principles taught by this science. This science of life, truth, substance, intelligence is for all who look into it profoundly. If you would look into the science of God, the science of spirit, meaning the science, the manifestation, you will see that your life is meant to be sustained by the laws of God and not by the laws of this world. So this teaching brings our consciousness, our awareness, our focus into the good. And the lesson number one that she mentions is that, Emma mentions, is that seek your good, find your good, and name it. So what do you want? What do you desire? If you have this infinite source of good and it's everywhere present, have you simply called it and named it yours and claimed it? And know that it is so. She goes on to say, she talks about the Asian people. She says the name Om, we've all ommed in our meditation, was a name for God by the Asian people. When they spoke it, they held their breath. And what it meant was good beyond good. far beyond our ideas of good. There's an infinite good waiting our recognition of it. There was another statement that I found profound up at Asilomar that said, let me make sure that I get it right. It said, if you are not in a state of awe, you are not paying attention. Awesome. But think about that. If you are not in a state of awe, you're not paying attention. But if you are not in a state of love, you are not paying attention. If you are not in a state of peace, you are not paying attention. If you are not in a state of abundance, love, joy, we're not paying attention because it is present and it is here right now. But it requires a focus. It requires a desire. It requires a conscious choice of what we're going to see, what we're going to speak of, what we're going to look at, what we're going to focus on, what is our attention on. Michael Beckwith has a statement that I actually went through my brain all last year, and I think I've probably shared it before, but it's powerful. He says, because you give it energy, it exists. And that's the only reason. Because you give it energy, it exists. So I was talking with my dear friend Laura, my partner in consciousness, as we take life and bring the principles to work here. And we were talking about Abraham, Esther Hicks and Abraham, and a question had come up on one of the CDs. Well, does that mean that you don't look at the good? Or the bad? Or does that mean that you don't face it or you just ignore it? Who's going to fix all this if that's going on? And Abraham said, it's not that we don't notice it or that we don't know that it's there. We just choose not to focus on it. And one of the principles and the powerful principles that Abraham teaches that I really like is that a statement that she said is that I'm just going to sit here and be really happy and make a profound difference in the world. Because we know that spirit, we know that God, we know that life, this life that works, is way more powerful than any of the negative stuff or any of the things that are going on. And one person that, as Steve Hawkins says in Power versus Force, one person that's anchored in truth, one person that's vibrating at love is more powerful than millions that are not. Right. So the question comes down to, what are we going to put our attention on? Are we going to put our attention on the outside world and all that's going on there? Are we going to put our attention on our intention? Are we going to choose with our eyes to see, as the Amazing Grace song says, I once was blind, but now I see? Or what are we putting our attention on? The awe, the grace, the love, the peace, the joy, and those types of things. It's a choice. I was talking to my partner, Rick, and he had a statement that really changed this for me as we were talking about the world and people were talking about world affairs. And he says, you don't have a different point of view. You have a different viewpoint. So we're not pushing against those that have different points of view. There's no resistance here, no pushing against or anything. We just are looking at it from a different viewpoint, from a higher perspective. Because from a higher perspective, only good is going on. From a higher perspective, God is active here. And we train ourselves and we teach ourselves to see that and to be able to raise up and see from that highest perspective. But how do we do that? Sometimes we have, as Deepak Chopra said, and just to add to that, Deepak Chopra said, chaos is simply an indication you're not looking at it from a high enough perspective. Powerful. But how do we do that? What we've run into is we see discrepancies. You'll hear, you'll know the truth, you'll be reading the truth, you'll be speaking about the truth, you'll be, doing the principles and laws of manifestation and all these things, and you're knowing all of this stuff, but your life's not reflecting it. That's one of our biggest challenges, is we're stuck, if you will, in the hallway in the middle, where we're knowing it, but it's not manifest. There's discrepancies, but the discrepancies there's a discrepancies between the statements and the words and the things that we're knowing and that where we're vibrating at. That's huge. Because if it's not unfolding in our life, as Michael Beckwith says in Visioning, I just finished teaching the Visioning class, he said that what we're desiring, what we're wanting and all that is already here. It's already complete. It's already done. It is here. What we are doing when we go into visioning, which is going within and asking, what is the divine idea of my life? What is the divine idea of this situation, this job, whatever we're doing? What we're doing is we're opening to receive so that we can verbalize it. But what we're also doing is we're asking, or we're giving in a willingness to be able to be transformed and renewed, to be made available for this good to come through and as our life. But we must be a match vibrationally in order for that to happen. So how do we do that? We study, we do our spiritual practice, prayer, and meditation, and those types of things. But I remember for myself, as I mentioned earlier, that I studied Joel Goldsmith. And I remember when I was new on this path and picked up a Goldsmith book, I would read like a paragraph or two, and I could just feel this man's consciousness. I mean, it just took me instantly into that place of feeling connected, feeling that bliss. And I could only usually read about a paragraph or two because I was just so full. I couldn't take any more. And I remember thinking, and some of the fellow students that I was with when I first began studying were going, gosh, I just wish I could become this. I just want to be this peace. You know, I just want to be this abundance, or I want to be this healthy, or whatever it is. I just want to be it. And it seemed like, you know, we could study it and we could practice it and this, that, and the other, but you can't force it. You can't like make it happen right now. There is no magic formula. We can't give you a step that says do this, 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 and this, and then you'll be there. What it really takes, what I really found happens, is by the immersion, by immersing ourselves in the truth, by just simply choosing to be conscious, be aware, to be careful what we focus on, to be in spiritual practice and prayer, to read, to know, just to spend as much possible time in the truth. That what happens is you look back. I remember like 10 years down the road, and don't worry, it doesn't take 10 years, but that's when I looked back and went, you know what? I'm this now. I have shifted. Something has transformed in my being. There wasn't anything I had to do, force, make, or happen. I just stayed in the present, stayed in the vibration, stayed in the truth and the consciousness of it, and my whole being transformed, and life transformed, and things started unfolding for me. And that journey, just so that you know, is infinite. It's not like you ever arrive. We're always expanding, we're always becoming more, we're always creating greater and greater and bigger desires, so that if we can have some patience as we journey along the road, knowing that I'm just going to immerse myself in this truth, we become it. We have a wonderful speaker coming next week, and I invite all of you to be here. He's a powerful man. His name is Terry McBride. He has a story, and he's the perfect story of just that. He was in a horrible motorcycle accident, and then was in the hospital and got all these staph infections, and his whole body just wasn't working. And they were telling him, he was young at the time, and they were telling him that, you know, he had to have a colostomy and that they didn't know if he'd make it, and on and on. But he has the title of a book. The name of his book is called The Hell I Can't. Because everyone was saying that they were, you know, that he wasn't going to make it, that he was going to be paralyzed, that he was going to be all of these things. And he took these principles and he took this teaching and he immersed himself in it. He knew the truth and only truth, accepted only truth, put his attention on the truth, and did it. Now, did it happen overnight? No. He had to literally transform his entire being, heal every part of his being for it to happen, but you'll see him next week. He's a powerful man with a powerful message. Myrtle Fillmore did the same thing. She had tuberculosis, and it was incurable at the time. And she said, that's not the truth of my being, that I am God, and God is not disease. So she spent a couple of years immersed in this teaching, immersed in the truth, forgiving herself, knowing the truth, speaking the truth, knowing the truth, and overcame an illness that nobody ever overcame, and went on to live a complete normal life. So we immerse ourselves in truth. We pay attention to what we're focused on. We pay attention to that which we are looking at. That's the journey. The Bible says about the power of our word. John in the Bible says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. So we've all heard that before. So we watch our words and we watch that which we speak, because that which comes out of our mouth is that which is within our minds. But he also went on to say, out of the Word were all things made, and without the Word was nothing made. And so we claim our good, we know our good, and we claim it. We be very cautious and aware of where our focus is and where our attention is and what we are choosing to see. And then we speak the truth, and only the truth, and only that which we want to see manifest. Laura had a saying that she came up with that she was working with the other day. She says, I'll quote it. It says, today's complaints are tomorrow's miseries. But today's appreciation is tomorrow's celebrations. For we're always creating. There's no way that we're not creating. We are always creating in every single moment. And we are at choice on what we are creating, how, when, and what we are doing. And so the demand for our attention is the divine. The divine is demanding it. Now we can forget and we can get off path, but one of the beautiful things about the divine is you can't get too far off without it pulling you back into order. Sometimes that looks like pain, challenges, those types of things, but we can't go wrong. Nothing can go wrong that won't eventually go right, because that's how we're wired. That's what we're made up of. And so I want to close with Emma. I invite you to just take these words within. God is my life. The good I am seeking is my health. God is my health. The good that I am seeking is my strength, for God is my strength. The good I am seeking is my support, for God is my support. For life is God, truth is God, love is God, substance is God. For God, life is intelligence. Everywhere present, all-powerful, all-knowing. God is life, truth, love, and spirit. Everywhere present, all-powerful, all-knowing. Take with you words and turn to the Most High. The first words we will take with which to go to God are statements of our good. That is as high as we can think or speak. Our good. Have some special time to make the statement of being. This will make you an even greater thinker. The mind of God will think through you. The words of God will speak through you. The joy of God will sing through you. The skill of spirit will work miracles through you. The judgment and beauty of God will inspire you. The love of God will melt the hard lot of mankind before you. You will be so one with your words that you will be able to say, as Jesus has said, I and my Father are one. You will drop off the garments of flesh. You will see that by speaking the truth, you are spirit, and the Father and you are one, all-powerful, all-knowing, everywhere present. We claim our good. We focus on our good. We speak only good, and our life is good. Let us turn within. Taking a big breath and releasing it. Breath. The beautiful infinite gift of God. Breath. Never, ever, ever have we struggled for it. It comes in an infinite supply. It is there for us for one purpose and one purpose only, our good. The same is true as all of the other principles of God, love and peace and joy and abundance and health and wholeness. It is all there, already present, through and as our very being. We do not need to ask for that. We pray to be transformed, to grow and to unfold, to be that place where that good is a perfect match and vibration of who and what we are. So we name our good and we claim it. for that good is my God. For my God is my good. It defines my good. It is right before me. It is the activity of God that I can choose to see at any moment, any time, anywhere. It is who and what I am. For God is, and I am. And I am grateful and flowing. As I allow it to be, knowing that it is already done, I stand as that place through which more good, more magnificence, more glory, more abundance, more health, more love, more joy, more peace. I stand as that place where more can flow through and as my life overflowing out into this world. And so it is.
Again, a lot of heart and soul and passion. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, and all that I receive. I am prosperous now. Hey, I trust you enjoyed that podcast. It was very exciting to be able to create that and to know that there are people like you all around the world that are observing and integrating these spiritual principles into their life. And so if you enjoyed it, what I'd like to do is encourage you to tell a friend or bring several friends together and watch another one of these podcasts. And then afterwards, take some time to talk about the spiritual principles, to talk about the stories and what significance they have and relevance they have in your life. What then happens is it moves to a deeper and deeper level in your world. It becomes real and assists you to create the freedom in your life that your heart and soul so desire. So if you like this, I encourage you to watch it again, but also tune into our website here at seasidecenter.org. There, you can get some of my written material and take a look at it. You can read some of my spiritual prayers. You can even go to our online bookstore and order some of the books. And if you're so moved, what I greatly would appreciate is your financial support, which you could do online at seasidecenter.org. It is support like yours that assists us to be able to continue to do these kinds of gifts for humanity and send it out to the world. Because you know what? We are making a difference with this spiritual message. And because of support like yours, people are being touched in the farthest reaches of this planet, as well as our backyard, more than we could ever begin to realize. So I thank you from the fullness of my heart for making a difference.
It defines my good. It is right before me. It is the activity of God that I can choose to see at any moment, any time, anywhere. It is who and what I am. For God is, and I am. And I am grateful and flowing. And so it is.